So one of the last things I'd like to talk about is once you join a group, okay, to start making your profile show up quicker and to have that blue circle full is, so join a group, but then start a conversation or participate in a conversation in that group. So here's an example. My son's best friend's mom, Lisa Flint, is a sales manager for OtterBox, and she used to be in charge of all of their educational sales, and now she's in charge of even more than that. She's been with the company about 5 years now. So she started this group several years ago on educational sales for OtterBox and invited me to join, and she knows that we've used OtterBox products here within the Warner College to help protect handheld devices and other types of equipment out in the field. And so occasionally when she posts something or starts a discussion, she'll tag me, which is something, you know, she's saying, I think this might be of interest to you, and occasionally I will actually comment on that as well. And then I have a friend that I grew up with in Albuquerque who's director of IT at it's a grade 1 through 6 charter school, and they bought iPads for all of their students, and so I asked him to join this, and then I introduced him to Lisa, and he has since bought some OtterBox products at the school, you know, that sort of thing. So, you know, sort of those business connections as well. And so just like if you comment on someone's post on Facebook, Facebook will notify you if someone else has commented on your comment or liked your comment or added something else. LinkedIn will do the same thing. Now you can turn that on and off, but let's say you're participating, maybe you've started a discussion, it'll tell you someone's responded or someone's posted something else to that discussion. And the more you do that, the quicker your name will show up in a search in Google. Your LinkedIn profile will come up to the top faster. Okay. And then if you look here for this particular group, it shows my group participating level. And so it kind of shows you that I'm just getting started with this group, because I think I've only commented on 2 discussions and it's been a while. Okay, so it kind of shows you, you know, even within that particular group, how you're ranking for that. Yeah.
Well, I see that you were a part of a group called Warner College of Natural Resources, I think.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to access that and try and find it, join some of these groups that are maybe meaningful for us. I couldn't find that anywhere.
Yeah. I think it might be by invitation only. So what you can do if you want to message me in LinkedIn, then I think what I can do is I can see about having an invitation sent to you, because this is moderated by Rob Novak, who's our Director of Communications here in the college, and before that it was his predecessor, Bryony. And so she's the one who started this group. And there hasn't been a lot of activity in this group lately, but that's not to say that you couldn't join and start a discussion thread, you know. As with all social media, if you want it to work to your advantage, you have to take care of it and feed it, you know. And so, you know, I've never started any discussions because I know in my head, okay, if I start this, I got to feed this beast. You know, I got to go back in there, and is that one more thing I want to do, and or am I okay just sort of standing off to the side? But it can't, if you're a person that regularly reads and or posts stuff in social media as just part of your day, then it's great. Give you an example. My daughter's a junior at Wyoming. She manages the Facebook page for the Wild Gold Association, which is a group of current and former students. So sort of it's to connect alumni with current students. And she regularly posts on Instagram, usually several times a week. Facebook, not only for that job, but also for in her regular life. She Snapchats frequently with her friends. That's where she lives. That's where she exists, you know. I rarely go in and post stuff. I mean, I'll look at stuff. Sometimes I'll like stuff, you know. And like I said, I will push messages out to my connections on LinkedIn about updates about things here at the university or within the college. So that's about all that I'm using it for. You know, it's not something where I'm wanting to start a discussion and having to take care of it. Let's see. And then as far as installing plugin applications, I've played around with this a little bit. There's some different plugins out there that will turn your resume or your LinkedIn profile into an infographic, and you know, it'll kind of show relative sizes of how long you've been doing something, or what percentage of your job it took place, and colors and stuff like that. And the one I had a couple years ago, it never really looked that great. It looked kind of silly. But part of that just has to do with the role I've had here at CSU, and I've been here for so long. You know, if I had changed careers 5 or 6 times and done different things at different jobs, then I think it would have more impact. But mine's pretty boring. I've kind of done the same thing for a really long time, so it's just this long blob of the same thing on a timeline. You know, versus someone who maybe had a job for 5 or 6 years and there are these blobs here, and then as you move along that timeline, there's other colored blobs here, and you move along, there's other colored blobs. So. But you know, it's a way to graphically represent what you've done, and just if you just do a Google search on LinkedIn plugins and infographic resume LinkedIn plugins, something like that, you'd come up with that stuff.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is it more detrimental if you have a LinkedIn account but it's really minimal and it's obvious to anyone that opens up your page, searches for you, that it's really minimal?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it depends on what stage you are in your current life and what you want to use it for, right? So I know that there are plenty of undergrads, because I'll go through LinkedIn every 3 or 6 months and try to find undergrads and connect with them, right? Because it's not for me, but for our I shouldn't say undergrads, I should say alumni. Let me clarify that, alumni, right? Because it helps me connect our current undergrads with alumni if they're looking for an internship or career, that sort of thing. And I'll stumble across these alumni that graduated 3 or 4 years ago, and they still have their job title listed as what they did for their internship, which only lasted 3 months, and they completed it 3 years ago. So I know they haven't been on there. Versus other ones, I notice they're routinely updating their stuff. So if you're in a job search mode, and there's a likelihood, and I think it's fairly likely that employers who are going to look up candidates online, okay? There's been some, data's a little bit old, but one of it's a survey that was done in the United States and done in Germany and Great Britain in, I think it was 2013 or 2012. Something like 67 to 72% of employers will Google applicants, right, to kind of see what they have out there online. And that's all in the public domain. Could it be detrimental if you haven't updated anything, you don't have anything there? I don't think so. I mean, as long as if you're applying for a company and you've got a really solid resume and you interview, that sort of thing. But I think if it were me, I would at least want to spend the time to kind of do what some of the beginner stuff here is, because that way at least you've got some decent content there, to have on there. Otherwise, maybe just cancel the account for now and then maybe create a new one later on and just not even worry about it. I mean, my wife's been in her career like me for 18 years. She's not looking for a job. She has a LinkedIn account, but there's nothing there. She's never gone on there. She doesn't need to, and people will request connections all the time and she just deletes. She has no need, she doesn't need to connect with anybody. She's not looking for a job. She doesn't need to connect any of her colleagues with anybody. So anyways, I mean, it's useful in my career in terms of some of the career counseling I do. So, yeah. Other questions about LinkedIn or anything we've talked about?
Yeah. What's the difference between, major differences, I guess, between the free and the paid version? Yeah,
so the question is, what are the major differences between the free and the paid? I know for certain you can see how many people have applied to a job, who's applied to a job. If you go to, so let's take a look at who's viewed my profile. So this shows how many profile views I've had since the beginning of August. and it shows profile views, projected views, actions taken. So if I did something, what result did that have? And so if I click on who's viewed my posts, I haven't done any posts, but who's viewed my profile, what it will do is it'll just briefly tell you who's viewed it, and then it says 17 more people viewed it, try premium, join today, right? And you can see who else has viewed it. So that's one of the differences. And then this other thing too is how you rank with all of your connections. So how I rank with my connections, how I rank with my company, and how I rank with professionals that are like me. I can't see this at all. I have to have the premium account to see this. So that's one of the other differences. But then if you click on premium, it says, you know, what are some of the benefits of doing that? So, you know, it could be worth it to join for, say, maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 months. And I think right now, if you join the premium, you get it free for 90 days. If you're within, say, 2, 3, 4 months of graduating, and then after graduating, just because there might be some advantage to get some of those premium features to see more stuff. And you know, the assumption is, okay, during that time, I'll assess it, see if it's really worth it, and if not, I'll just drop it. You know, go back to the free version. So, yeah. Other questions?
How do you handle somebody who might, perhaps they worked for some organization that's maybe controversial?
So the question is, how might you handle someone who's worked for an organization that's controversial, or the person was controversial?
Say somebody worked for Planned Parenthood and they're developing an online profile.
Right.
And they don't want to alienate people.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, if you've worked for an organization that might be for political reasons or religious reasons or something, you know, something that very strongly held value that some people might be hold a different value set. You know, I think that sort of depends. If that person is looking to get into a different career field, that might create problems. You know, one of the issues is, okay, well, do I have to absolutely put everything I've ever done on LinkedIn? No. But understand that with, I think, most jobs, when you apply, the employers at some point might say, we need to know every organization you work for, or that sort of thing. Maybe they might not say that. And if you're not upfront about it, because usually when you apply, you sign something that says everything is true, and they find out that you didn't list something when you're supposed to, that could disqualify you for a job. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of a tough one. You know, it's the same thing. Sometimes people say, well, should I list an employer on my resume if I was fired from that job? Like, well, it kind of depends, you know. I mean, you don't have to go out of your way to tell the employer, if you're in an interview, to tell the employer you were fired. But if they ask you, have you ever been fired for a job, and you say yes, and they ask the reason why, you know, be honest with it, but don't give any additional details, you know. And, you know, if it's something where maybe there's a pending lawsuit and you can't say anything, then you'd have to tell them, I'm sorry, legally I can't say anything. So, and that could, of course, raise red flags, but, you know. So usually if someone are in that situation, I usually recommend they consult a lawyer. that's, you know, two things in life scare me a lot, electricity and lawyers, and I don't try to mess with either one of them, so, yeah. Does that kind of answer the question? Okay. Yeah. Other questions? All right. Well, thank you very much, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And if they friend you, will you, or if they connect with you?